The thing that I'm excited about is we have added our charter, the code of conduct, and then we now have the members page, and I encourage everyone to send in your bio. And we've added Hall of Fame and Hall of Shame, as well as 11 white papers. So that's pretty exciting, and I encourage you, if you have the time, to go there and check the white papers. There, some of them are like to me, mind blowing. And Thomas here had really contributed a lot. He came up with the idea of how do you call it, Thomas? Uh, just one sec. The grid brain. And there's some interesting ACG KCC guild chain, decentralized guild web, and all these things that I find them to be really, I don't want to say innovative, but very creative. And I like to try and play with that. Thomas, I think just this morning you've added the repo, so I'll try and play with it. Maybe you can hold my hand later. So anyway, these are the things where we want to create a vendor-neutral, non-profit platform where we can, you people here will generously contribute your brain power and your talent to get this thing rolling. One of the things I wanted to discuss today is as we start growing and maybe gaining some traction, I don't know, we may have people ask to join the guild. It really depends, right? But you never know. And sometimes if there's a little bit of notoriety or buzz happening, then that may attract all kinds of people. And I'm speaking from personal experience from other areas where some people just look for shameless self-promotion, or there are people who, I mean, it's my personal experience. Sometimes there are people who have axe to grind and they want to just come in and start, grievances, etc. Okay, that's all fine, but I don't want the focus of the guild to be diluted by somebody, off the left field coming in and trying to steer it in a direction. So how do we just kind of tossing it out for people maybe to brainstorm or kick around? Do you think that we should have a process of vetting members, or we just like take anyone in and see what happens, and if it's misbehaving, then we kind of shake hands and say, "Oh, look, that doesn't seem to be working for our guild. Can we part ways?" I'm not sure. How do you feel we should proceed? I think Thomas has some ideas. He proposed some, but anyway, over to you, Matt. What's your thoughts?
Thanks, Alex. I just posted about this yesterday because I think about, folks that are just getting started out and they're trying to figure out, who do I listen to? Who do I follow? And my original, thought was, well, follow the people that are actively building with it every day if you can. And I think generally that's a pretty good metric, but even that is not necessarily foolproof. You have a lot of people that are building, say they're building every day and they have bad information and it's leading folks astray. So I don't think there's an easy answer. I don't know if we want to do like a vote as part of the vetting process where you have, all of us, or some sort of process where it's a yay or a nay with an explanation of kind of why we think that, and then we just discuss. So that flow would work if we wanted something that was like really kind of specific and intentional behind the membership of the guild, where, we're trying to bring in folks that at least the majority of us agree this person could be a positive influence on the guild and on our mission and on what we're trying to do here. If that's the case, then I could see a more stringent process to get folks in. That's how I would do it. My gut is the folks that are a part of the guild, I think, are some of the most passionate people about AI and about agentic, not just engineering, but like how AI and the agentic community is impacting knowledge work as a whole. And I think that really requires kind of the next echelon, the next level of effort and interest and activity and the ability to talk about what they're doing and show what they're doing. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, that's excellent. Thank you very much, Matt. This kind of touches on, I want to just quickly bring another pet peeve of mine, which has been kicking around in my head for decades, which has to do with what I call the online reputation. Like in real life, we go through life, we build some reputation, and as we move around, I change countries, and my reputation follows me. I can bring some, and in person, people can see, okay, this person is competent and stands for what he says he stands for. But online with walled gardens and all that, it's very frustrating because you may be spending, and we've seen that people spend years in some walled garden and build phenomenal reputation, and people can vouch for them. But as soon as you switch over to another walled garden, you start from scratch, and it's really hard to bring along with you your reputation, and the people can immediately see, oh yeah, Matt, he was kicking ass on such and such, or whatever was the walled garden. Of course, we're impressed. Of course, you are in, as opposed to, okay, now I have to prove to us who you are. Are you really? So that's one thing that maybe this guild can facilitate a little bit. It's okay. So here's your portfolio. Here is your CV, and we have been most of us here, we've been doing a lot of things like publishing books, publishing articles in various publications, blogging, podcasting, doing conference talks, and it's like wealth of information. And in my case, I don't have time to collate all that, and I'm always discovering some. Oh yeah, I did that talk over here. It's so again, it's like all my links kind of a thing, but not in a sort of self-promotion shilling way, but in a more, publicly vetted. Okay, here's a platform or a guild of professionals, and if they vouch for this person, then you can take. Like right now, I just published your membership profile, Matt, on and I'm hoping that one day you can take that, and anybody asks like, who is this Matt? Okay, here's a link to my profile on the ACG, and by then hopefully we can gain some public. The reputation of our guild carries some weight, instead of saying, oh yeah, you were kicking ass on Facebook, but nobody knows you over here. And so yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say just real quick. You really touched on something important that I think, and the reputation of the guild. Like, my goal is that people can just hear, "Oh, you're a member of the ACG." Well, then I know that you're going to do the best work possible. I know you're going to operate with integrity. That's like a guarantee. And if we can get the reputation of the guild at that level, then that's going to attract even more the kind of people that we want, that want to go, I want that kind of representation for myself. I want to stay at that bar and prove that I can work at that bar to remain a member of this guild and get to inherit all of the positive things that come with maintaining that kind of level of integrity and output. So I think that's really important.
Absolutely. But it's a chicken and the egg, because for us to get to that level of reputation, we need to make sure we allow or agree to add already reputable people. Right. So it's kind of course, I feel super fortunate that we have very lucky for us to be together here by some serendipitous, whatever karma you want to call it. And so it's a great beginning. And it's just a question of how do we grow. So Nicholas, you had a thought?
Yes, I need to talk about the reputation of the guild, but also the stuff and the material produced by the guild. I'm very impressive because you have already 11 white papers, but I think time is our main value, and we don't want to lose our time. And I think to make some value of the guild and create a reputation of the guild, we need not just create some stuff and materials and put it on the website. I think we need to have an organization to, one guys of the guild produce white papers. Maybe we need to vote, and we need to, the goal is to share the stuff. It's the only way, because I organize many meetups, and I know, you know, when we have many conferences in the world, all videos are available in the replay on the website, but people don't have enough time to see it. So to produce some value for the guide, we need to choose some stuff produced by the guide and organize a roundtable or something like that. But maybe we need to vote and present the materials to the member of the guild. And maybe at the end, we can say, oh, if you are interested by the work produced by the guild, you can join the guild, and you can invest your time in the guild. And my point is not just produce like the AI many line of code or white papers. I think it's useless if we have not enough time to work on it or to share with the community. Is useless, and we will lose our time and your energy on this. I think maybe we have 11 white papers. We can produce some votes on the guide to see, okay, this stuff, we want to see this stuff in priority. We organize a roundtable or meetup on this, and this, the benefit is to have collective knowledge by sharing the stuff and the material with the guide. And the reputational impact is that people can be assist to the meetup and see, okay, this is the stuff produced by the guide. I think it's a good it's good principle. I want to participate. It can be a way to attract more people, interested people by AI.
Okay. So if I understood you, and you know, we in the charter as well, we have, I think, specified that we are more, we have strong bias for action rather than just deliberating and endless equivocations and just going around. And so one good step in that direction was publishing all these like really incisive white papers. But now you have, as you say, we have to package it so that it's more actionable. It's not just dead letter on paper that you can read and say, okay, I'm impressed, but so what? So I agree, we should. Now, just one quick before I go to you, Garrick. I have a good friend who is really very skilled in marketing and public relations. And I was just chatting. I'm like, okay, so what would be your advice? How do we make this more marketable or more, you know, make an impact? And the answer is like 3 words: simplify, simplify, simplify. And I agree, but there's always a danger that simplify gets interpreted to dumb it down. And I don't want us to be dumbed down. So it isn't, and I find a little balance between let's simplify it, but not dumbing it down so that, like, you know, we lose that luster of us being high-level pros, even academic credentials, you know. And the slant is very scientific. If you read through the stuff that has already been published, there's a lot of like serious hardcore, and especially Laurie and Thomas, very hardcore scientific slant where we're saying not novelty for novelty's sake. It has to be peer reviewed. It has to be, we are guarding against, oh, look here, this is kind of looks very interesting and these things seem connected, and therefore we just kind of, you know, shouting from the rooftops. It has to be more cold-headed, impartial, and with solid legs. Over to you, Garrick.
Just before I need to, in addition, my point is feedback. We need to have feedback on what we produce. and to have a sustainable pace for the guide, because we are human, we have our life also, etc. We need to have feedback on what we have added on the website. Yeah, over to you, Garrick.
Yeah, a little bit of forgive me, a little bit of open space reflex, but I just wanted to call out, if people haven't looked or don't have the chat open, I noted that Kelly made some great suggestions regarding parallels to SAG, for example. And I had earlier had a one-off idea about the notion of apprenticing, if it is such a thing as a guild, in terms of a probationary period. Alex, just going off of your notion of people coming in and causing problems, the idea that, well, hang on a second, you are new to us, we'll give you an opportunity, but we're giving you an opportunity, not a guarantee.
Yeah, and I love that, because as Nicholas said, we are all busy, we have lives, we have careers. I cannot be personally, I don't have time to be the policeman here, and it's an unpleasant duty. I mean, everybody is intelligent and respectful. Maybe sometimes there's not good alignment. I don't want to be the guy going and say, you know what, I'm sorry to say, but you're fired. I hate those things. So you're maybe better to prevent by saying, okay, look, is there a minimum bar that, I'm just kind of tossing this out, and I may sound like a too tight ass, but like a minimum bar, like maybe we say, okay, you got to be at least showing some prior credentials in this profession. But whatever way, maybe you given a talk at a conference, maybe you've you have your tutorial or some kind of, so it doesn't, I don't know, it's kind of stupid because anybody can do that, but at least show that you are vested in this profession, that you are not just kind of, oh, I hate AI, I'm going to jump into this guild and I'm going to do everything possible to subvert. And, I can't, and I don't see us being that kind of police. And so some kind of a minimum bar to say, look, if you're not this and that, then you don't even qualify to be considered. But that's up to debate, of course. Over to you, Matt.
Yeah, great idea from Garrick. And I really love the comparisons to SAG. I think that was the model that I was thinking of too. The tricky thing with frontier tech, with emergent tech, is that we can't look at someone's resume and go, oh, I see you've done stuff with AI, like we could have with every other tech before. Oh, well, let me see your resume. I'll look at the projects you've done. I have like 5 projects that I'm trying to manage right now, and they're in different stages of going. Like, one's an internal tool, one's going to be hopefully going live like next week. And I don't have any real outlet to talk about this stuff. So a couple ideas. The first is, I wonder if we should have a section that is almost like a showcase, or what our members have built. I mean, the white papers and the scientific discussions are obviously critically important, because the challenge for us right now is twofold. It is showing that there is real technology happening here, and it's not just snake oil, and that you can build real things with AI. And there's, I would say, most of LinkedIn and most of Reddit, because I follow all of the subs and I'm on Reddit, LinkedIn constantly for the last 3 years reading about this topic. They do not believe that's possible. By and large, most people, most engineers, most designers do not believe either of those things. And so I think one of our jobs needs to be demonstrating to the whole world that those things are possible. And the way we do that is by gathering the best and the most passionate and the most committed to doing that. And maybe we just have a place where we can talk about a static page that shows what we've built and what we've done with this technology. And secondly, very quickly, what was the second thing I was going to say? We may want to insist on some sort of engineering background as well. And feel free to push back on this, because I may be having too much of an engineering-centric focus on this. But we dealt with this over Fourth Wave. So I'm a member of a collective called Fourth Wave, and it's designed to be like, kind of the best agentic devs around, and for the purpose of helping organizations get ramped up into this inevitable move to AI native. And we recently, our CTO recently took on a very popular member of LinkedIn that is commenting all the time about AI. And if you looked at their stuff, you're like, wow, this individual is just absolutely on fire. But when it came down to just kind of like core engineering capabilities, they couldn't do it. They were like, just like a UX person. And that's fine. That's totally fine. But I feel like if the guild is engineering centric, then I think you have to have some sort of engineering background, I think, to even be considered. So there's a lot in there that I've just said. So, and again, feel free to push back on any of that stuff, but those are my thoughts.
So Matt, okay, this is very interesting because I think we all kind of thought about this guild being staffed with people who are fully qualified to let someone know, look, you're barking up the wrong tree and you are going for down a path that's going to disappoint you. And so we are warning you. And I even talked to Thomas and Laurie about having a automated service where you can put your work on and it will analyze it and give you the diagnosis to say, yeah, you're using the right approach, you're using the right technology, or let me stop you right there, you are going to be coming out of this with a bloody nose, something like that. But the question is also that Laurie brought up during our roundtable last week was, are we not also interested as AI craftspeople in hearing from people who are not necessarily software engineers, but are creative and are strongly intellectually, intellectual prowess, who are finding ways to use AI in a novel and very beneficial. And so we staff maybe with a few such members that are, Laurie can talk more about that. He even knows people who are interested in that arena. I don't know personally, but for example, this morning, I think Kelly sent me a song which I really liked, which I think, Kelly, I don't know if you wrote it or somebody, and it was Suno, right? And usually we used to ask Suno, it's a horrible confectionery, but some of these people are very creative and they can make captivating music.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, please.
Actually, so I'm a musician, and that's actually my cloned voice. So I have been using Suno to rework my actual catalog. So it's a really interesting, music is really a big part of my whole approach, integrating that with AI, because it is really has an incredible, powerful effect on the brain. And then children have lost music in many of their schools. So AI can offer a way to connect children back in a way that's cost effective, right? So yeah, music though is a big it's a big bone of contention out there, right? But like when you're using your own voice and you're an actual musician, it does a lot of things that is impossible otherwise for a solo musician, True.
Fantastic. And I have an acquaintance, because I met this person recently, who is a professional writer, and he told me, like, you know what, to be honest, I don't feel like I should write anything without AI. So that's his professional opinion. So he's leaning on AI and relying on. And these are things we need to take into consideration.
Yes, it
Nicholas?
just we need to figure
Thank you,
out
Matt.
if we want a whitelist policy or blacklist policy, and like Frank or Matt said, we want to figure out the behavior we want, and also the minimum bar, like you said, Alex, if we require some white paper or something like that. But I think if we choose the whitelist policy, it's require more effort, and it's like act as a police officer,
Yeah. And another thought, just before we go to Laurie, another thought that just popped into my head is, do we want to really risk with this bar? Do we want to risk not giving a chance to young people who come fresh faced with no prior, just because? But I think some of these young people are probably ahead of me. I know they're ahead of me. Same way as I was ahead of my parents when I was in my 20s, and they just couldn't grasp what is it that I'm doing with all these goddamn computers and the internet, etc. Right? So who knows? Something that in my old age, I cannot see clearly, and I'm, there are already young people here on the call, but you already have some prior, built your career reputation. Do we want to? I don't want to put a barrier to some brand new young guy who is so excited, or girl, and just wants to jump in and spread their wings. What do you think about that, Laurie? Or you have some other thoughts? Sorry.
Yeah, if anyone has anything, please go. Okay, firstly, can you hear me? I put on my Shure mic. It's good. Yeah. I think firstly, the younger people. There are some that I've connected with on LinkedIn, who are young boy geniuses who graduated school at the age of 14. They're currently busy running or planning on building the next infrastructure in space. Startups for building hardware in space, for example. That's just one example of one person. So I don't think we as a guild can limit or vet using qualifications. I mean, some of these geniuses might not have a bachelor's qualification or anything like that. Cross discipline or per discipline, peer engineering versus pure science versus that or this, it's very difficult. I think all of us here, we are skilled in cross-domain areas, science and engineering probably being the core two disciplines that we have worked with, for decades. So it might seem intuitive for us, but what about the Leonardo da Vinci's out there that actually know about everything, and they have this really, really amazing talent of seeing connections between things too. That is becoming more and more popular, except that there's a real fear of people thinking that their agentic AI, it boils down to just hammering a nail, like hammer a nail. They'll put everything in, everything that I hear about it makes sense, and how it's going to be mixed in with my honors, and then all of a sudden, then there's not real science. That does happen as well. What about we reframe the question and let's think a bit about going into, say, a hostel, where, say, like here in South Africa, we have people who live on really live on farms that are completely, in the middle of nowhere, but their parents want them to have a really good education. So at the age of 6, they send them to the school, they stay in a hostel, and the parents see them every weekend or every fortnight or whatever. Now, there are no vetting processes involved, yet the people who finish school there are the people who were the ones who fit in there. So is this not maybe something that over time we can just see as an evolutionary thing? Just like I have to remind myself that, kids are kids, they will sort each other out, don't interfere too much. I have a 5-year-old for context, so this is why I'm referencing it. Maybe we can say the guild members are the guild members, let them sort themselves out. However, there is an important thing here. all institutions or any councils or guilds like these, there has to be a really good code of conduct and terms of service, how you operate. And I would advise for monitoring and taking that spirit, that ethos into heart and mind when engaging on Discord or on the talks. So my suggestion would be that we enforce the rules that we set up. We act according to the manifesto. Those who don't, they might tend to naturally just drop out. Just a thought.
Okay. All right. So basically, we've been caught. I've been caught with my pants around my ankles 3 years ago. I did not expect ChatGPT, and even though I was 10 years ago, I was involved big time in the chatbot first wave, and it petered out. It fizzled out. I was quite enthused about. I gave a talk in 2016 in Vienna's chatbot conference. I had my presentation and my ideas how I would build chatbots, and it was very Mickey Mouse. Didn't pan out because I think it too much was focused on Facebook Messenger, and Facebook is a lousy company, just horrible. And of course, anything they touch just botched. Just doesn't work. They're awful. Enough of my rant. However, I lost confidence in the ability to. Back then, there was a big rage about text user interface. And when I was in Vienna, I met one business owner who was at the conference, and he said he owns an insurance business and offering insurance over their website or web app. And he says when they look at the logs, most people who want to apply for the insurance policy abandon filling out the form halfway through because it's just too much. You page after page and this and that, and their hope was back then to replace that with just chat, just text. Don't give me GUI. Don't ask me to click on some buttons and tabs and links. And they felt that people just talking, either voice or typing, will be more intuitive and will gain more traction. People will not be abandoning the chat halfway through. That was the big dream back then. It didn't happen. But it felt like most people anyway, if they're spending time online, they're texting. That was back then. Why am I saying this? Because all of a sudden, 3 years ago, I got trampled by ChatGPT. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Actually, this technology has legs. It's not just like brittle. Because back then, wherever I built, you can try and make it beefy and all that, but you quickly get to a point where it starts breaking. And then it was really mature. So anyway, why am I saying this is, once you start seeing what this technology is capable of, the LLM, then many of us entrenched or incumbent people, we start worrying about our career. Okay, what's going to happen next? And what should I be doing next? And I find that kind of blinkers or kind of limits my ability to think. And that's why I'm thinking young people who don't have anything to lose, I think they're braver and can come at this from an angle that I can't even imagine. And so it would be a shame to lose that, insight and capability, which is why I'm, on your side, Laurie, as well. Give them a chance and find a way to, let them spread their wings and let them come at this from their own unique angle. I think that's precious. Go ahead, Laurie.
Yeah, coincidentally, and please tell me if I'm overmapping, Alex. But the article I wrote this morning, yes, it's based on a headline I read about this wonderful this wonderful guy, Mr. Cunningham. So his dog obtained grew a tumor and developed cancer. And what he did was he used ChatGPT, AlphaFold, Gemini, and Grok. In a pipeline he designed and evaluated to map the tumor's RNA. And then the reason why he was able to do that and do novel, great work is that he had 17 years background in machine learning. So he could distribute signal from noise. But then this is not only him doing this for his dog. When he finished with this evaluation, he went to scientists and doctors and presented them with these novel research. They developed a vaccine for his dog, and the one tumor shrank 75%. Now, why I'm mentioning this is I would love to share the articles that. It's not about can AI cure cancer. Basically, it's like what kind of thinking should an individual employ when they're using AI. Now, I think I think the possibility is there for anyone here in this world who is curious, who is knowledgeable about a field, to use their expertise to be able, with AI, to be able to read through the noise and then focus on the things that they know are real. And through that, the novel advancements in science and in knowledge in general will continue expanding. And that's why we can't limit to programming, engineering, software. I mean, we have, for example, Kelly and, oh, by the way, Kelly, Thomas, obviously, Thomas clones his own voice too with his 101 Suno tracks, right, Thomas? Anyway, so we have so many multidisciplinary, multi-talented people that I would like to. It's a difficult thing because we know that eventually things will lead to a bit of chaos if everyone is invited, especially as the awareness of the ACG grows. And so there will be some things to sort out, but such is the age-old concept of forming, storming, norming, performing, right? It's analogous to a team forming. I know that there is, a job interview required to be employed for a position, but in this day and age, even in that area, it's going to change so much. People are able to be complete chameleons now, using all of their different interests and things that they know about, things that they've read about and which that they've studied, and they've also gained experience in real life, empirical evidence, and an intuitive understanding.
Yeah, and I think we already talked about this. My take is it all boils down to knowledge representation. There is knowledge that is distributed. I call it distributed cognition, but then we have many ways to represent it. And I think I talked last time, just a thought experiment. How were things before we had computers and the network? Like, let's go back 8 years ago. We had floors and floors staffed with people who were doing manual paperwork. And it was very, involved. What happened when we finally obtained this new technology, the digital? We just digitized all that, and we have emulated slavishly the practices that we've been doing. This is the least effective. Sorry, you could not imagine a least effective way of using this technology. It's the really bottom shelf. It's really lazy, and okay, it happened, and we are all kind of conditioned by it, and learned helplessness, etc. But now is the chance to maybe get out of that prison, a jailbreak, and say, can we envision a novel ways or more humane ways, so that we don't have to yet again just kind of have reams and reams of virtual paper flying around. That's where I see this AI giving us some rope. Now, I just want to quickly mention another thing. I don't know if you guys know about a person called Brett Victor, or Victor Brett. I don't know who's, Brett Victor. Yeah. So Brett Victor is all about knowledge representation. And his famous example is, if you look back in history, back in like 16th century, whatever, we used to represent knowledge by creating tables, rows and columns of data. And then you summarize your knowledge, you put this big table, and then somebody gives you a table, you read through, and like, okay, I see what's happening here, etc. On the other hand, we had another discipline where we were representing our knowledge of our world by drawing maps. So this is a territory, I measure it and I draw a map. And you look at the map and you see, oh, a river is here, and the city is over there, and the mountain and the sea. Now, somebody, and I forget the name of that person, came up with this idea to combine the table with the map. And now you have a graph. And why is graph a better knowledge representation? Because at a glance, you see what's going on. You don't have to go row by row and in your head reconstruct and see the trend and the pattern. So taking two or more knowledge representations and putting them together, overlapping, may result in a much more superior, much more revealing representation of our knowledge. And so we see, even as we are chatting in the Discord channel, Thomas is, representing his knowledge like in more than one way. One of those ways is a song, but it all kind of ties together. These are very early, crude, pioneering days, and I'm not saying that Thomas had found a way, but I think as a guild we should be also looking into these things. Can we come up with a synthesis? And now that we have at our fingertips the speed of just ask AI, do this, do that, and like Woody said, it's no skin off anyone's nose. If I spent 15 minutes, it didn't go anywhere, instead of spending 15 days, and now, oh my God, I'm going to get fired if this is not panning out. So this speed and this relative, okay, somebody's going to complain that, okay, we are burning energy, etc. But that's how world works. We are exploiting our Mother Earth one way or another. Interestingly, people who are whining about AI have no problem with their tax dollars used to bomb children's hospitals, and everybody's silent about that. So let's put things in perspective here, right? But I don't think this march of technology is stoppable or should be stopped, even though many people I know are screaming that it should be stopped and we should arrest all the people and copyright infringement, etc. But again, I'm thinking about our role may also be in encouraging the innovation, because we have three pillars in our guild. One is ethical. So first and foremost, make sure we prevent any possible harm or any damages by anyone who's using this technology, to at least, steer and guide and advise. And the second one is, of course, technical excellence, which we have really good representative here that we can assess, and we can certainly guide people towards technical excellence, which provides this solid architectural foundation. But to me, the most important pillar is innovation. If we're just going to use this to repeat same old, then of course we're going to lose the debate, because there's going to be always people say, well, works for us, why should I change anything? And we experienced that with when we try to propagate extreme programming and test-driven development. The people say, well, why should I even consider that? It works. The way I works for me. I'm getting paid. I think you're coming at me with a giant solution in search of a problem. So you can't win that debate. But I think with AI, we're not in the same ballpark. I hope not. And another thing that we can maybe discuss later is how important is this XP and TDD, technical excellence, to AI? As some of you know, I'm fully vested in XP and TDD, but maybe I'm barking on the wrong tree. I don't know. The jury's still out. So I'm talking too much. Who is next, Matt?
I don't think you're talking too much, Alex. I think these are all important things to discuss. When you were talking earlier about the water usage and tax dollars and all that, it made me think about the fact that I wonder if we have each foot in a different world that we have to maintain at the same time. So we have one foot in, our world of advanced frontier edge AI, absolutely pushing the limits of whatever we can do, which is an important place for us to be able to connect with each other and share our knowledge and share our learnings and share where we went wrong. All that's really important. And then there's this other foot in the other world of how can we be a beacon of what we believe to be true about AI, the impact it's going to have, and the facts around it, because we are fighting an uphill battle like salmon's swimming upstream of disinformation and misinformation and falsehoods and all of these other things that aren't just coming from people that are accidentally getting it wrong. They're coming from people that don't like the idea of AI. They're coming from people that want to discourage as many people as possible from using it, that don't think it's a big deal, that everything's going to return to normal. And it's a crisis. It's a crisis. There's probably, there's like 60, I would say 30, 40, who knows how many percentage of engineers, they're not even remotely close to getting their heads around the actuality of what's going on with this technology right now. And that's going to be a painful lesson to learn. And so I'll end with this. I don't know how much of that responsibility we should try to take on for ourselves, but I think with this collection of people here, it would be a waste if we didn't have some sort of an effort of saying, look, let's get to the truth of the talking points that are going on, and here's what we believe, and here's the technical reasons why. And then I said I would stop, so I'll stop. But that's kind of what I'm thinking in terms of if we have our feet on on each side of the world and what we do about that.
So, Matt, just so that I understand, do you feel that people who are against it can indeed sabotage this?
In any real way, no. One of my core beliefs is that until DeepSeek released their open weights, sure, maybe we could have made. Maybe anyone could have made some sort of a dent with the cloud providers, but now absolutely no way, it's impossible. I bought a Mac Studio like a little over a year ago for the express purpose of staying on top of local inference, because I wanted to be, my personal mission was I wanted to be one of the first to generate production quality deliverables with an open source model. As the minute open source models started getting to the point where my studio could pick them up and actually use them to produce production work through a pipeline, I wanted to make that happen. We have, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 models that are open source right now that are they're about 6 to 9 months behind Frontier. Even if Anthropic and OpenAI vanished off the face of the earth tomorrow and the 10-year timeline, it'd barely move the needle. There is no stopping this technology. There's not even slowing it down. That's the technical reality of the situation. It's been propagated far too widely for anyone to make any sort of an impact on what's going to happen with knowledge work. That's my perspective, at least.
Well, great, thank you. Basically, what you're saying is there are no modes.
Could you explain a little more?
Whatever somebody comes up as a bleeding edge, kick-ass, it's easier now to catch up onto that. The moat is not so with crocodiles swimming around it like it used to be in the closed source, because what was I trying to say? You know, it's like, in a way, what you're talking about reminds me of the Wayback Machine, where you can, you know, you can publish something and then you're like, oops, I made a mistake, but the cat is out of the bag. You can destroy your website, but I can go on Wayback and I can find it and I can show it. So it's like a primitive blockchain, but the evidence is there. This is the power. This is the thing that, again, sorry, this is the thing that I'm talking about, generational differences. For example, my generation, we were the first to plunge into the world of networks. And not just talking technically, but just the mindset that there's a network. My parents just could not grok it. Despite their academic credentials and all, just that wasn't part of their world. Everything was localized and everything was kind of, you know, parochial, from here to here, and that's how things work. Every now and then you make an excursion over there, but it's at the expense. All of a sudden you have like this global network where everything is instantaneous. And I know, just talking to my father, that just he had difficulty grasping that the way I was able to grasp it. And so now I'm thinking the young generation, my children and their children, who knows how they're going to perceive this, and I just cannot even grok it, you know. This is hypothetical, but that's the thing, you know. So, sorry, I'm blabbing. Garrick?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to echo a little bit of what Matt was talking about in terms of, as I'd paraphrase, you know, the genie being out of the bottle. Some of the elements here, I think, fascinatingly, trying to look back a little bit historically, trying to make a comparison. There are elements that feel both parallel to the creation of the atomic bomb and early nuclear energy work back in the 1940s. As well as, in terms of the hype cycle, go back and take a look what people were saying about electricity when electricity was new, in terms of the impact that it had on culture. People are like, electricity is going to be able to reanimate the dead, right? I mean, you know, you had snake oil salesmen coming out as like, you know, oh, you don't have to exercise anymore, just electrify your muscles. I mean, the parallels are really disturbing, because there's a lack of understanding. In order to try and ground myself as poor of a math student as I've been historically, and I'm willing to admit this now because it's been almost 30 years since college, D meant diploma. And I got 2 courses short of getting a minor in mathematics because my university required me to go all the way up through differential equations. And I was just not good, but I got through it. And I took that and got a little bit of a refresh of linear algebra by going through Manning Press's Build a Large Language Model from Scratch book. I did that over the course of the last couple of weeks. And what it really cemented for me, even with the tough parts, going through pages and pages of Python code, pulling PyTorch, setting up tensors, going through every step of how a fairly simple, like GPT-3, model would be built, which is what it was based on. By the time I got to the end, I'm just like, this is mathematical transformation. There's no real knowledge here. There's nothing that is going to be like what people are predicting. And it was really profound. And so that's kind of been one of my thoughts. I mean, you don't have to necessarily do all that, but I've been telling a lot of friends and a lot of colleagues, it's like, look, there's 2-hour videos out there where I can't remember his name, but one of the early pioneers that everyone points to in terms of LLM based AI does like 200 lines of Python and shows you, thank you, Karpathy, yes, wonderful, and shows you this is all it is. And I think more people, especially developers, really need to see that before we keep going off and say, what happens if it escapes the lab? There's no it. What if my toaster gets out into the middle of the street? Oh no, it's going to start running around and it's going to go around the Safeway and break into the bread aisle and start toasting everything. And, you know, then we'll have a bread shortage. It's like, really? Sorry, I'm rambling a little, but still.
No, that's excellent. Yeah. Before we go to Michael, I just want to quickly say a lot of people now are very aggressively pushing back on saying that shouldn't be called artificial intelligence. There's no intelligence there. So my take, In order for us to understand what intelligence is, we need to have a prior. We don't have a prior. We don't know what intelligence is. It's the same as saying, how do you know this world is not created? Because we don't have a prior. If you show me a universe where it's proven that it's been created, I can compare that universe to our universe and can conclude whether it was created or not. We don't have it. Therefore, it's pure speculation. And so when we claim we know what intelligence is, we don't know what intelligence is. We just experience it, and I don't think we can go any further than that. That's just my personal pet peeve. Over to you, Michael.
Yeah, well, I feel a bit intimidated after all the great ideas that I've already heard, but yeah, I think that it's just, I'm kind of restating what's been said, but I think we are at this unique moment when there is so much hype and there's so much speculation and there's so much fear. And then at the same time, I see the same thing that Matt was mentioning in the developer community, where people are saying none of this works, and there's going to be, you know, a huge amount of work in the next, you know, 10 years or 5 years to clean up all of this AI slop by, you know, traditional developers who have just held the line and refused to adopt AI, which is a fantasy. But you know, I posted something on X, kind of a satirical post, where I said, you know, all of this junk assembly language that's being produced by compilers is going to be a huge amount of work for assembly programmers in the next coming years to, you know, clean all of this up, right? But I think we have kind of this maybe dual responsibility here to kind of tell people, like, okay, we are the ones that understand what AI is all about, because we've been in it, we've built models, we've done all these things, we have that understanding, and there's mistakes being made on kind of all sides, both from the hypesters and the snake oil salesmen, as well as the people who say, well, you know, this is all a waste of time. I tried GPT to have it write me a program 6 months ago and it didn't work, and therefore, you know, I've written the whole thing off. Which, I mean, I went through that phase as well myself, where I tried something and it didn't work, and I was like, well, obviously this is not going to work. And then a few months later, all of my code was being written by LLMs. So yeah, I think it's just about being really, really grounded, realistic, but also saying, like, yes, this is significant. This is a generational shift. Our kids are going to be growing up in a different world than the one we're in. But it's probably not going to destroy the world either. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The sky's always falling. There's always the end of the world coming just around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. Over to you, Woody.
All right. Well, I've been taking a few notes. I just want to bring up a couple things. First of all, regardless of, I'm going to refer back to what you were saying, Alex, about TDD and code quality and refactoring and all these things. And some people are saying, well, developers are not, what percent of people doing software development are really using AI in anything more than very rudimentary way? Well, I've been to many, many conferences, and I would often ask, like even extreme programming, the XP conferences. Hello, everybody in this talk. There's 300 people in the audience. How many of you are doing TDD daily in your work always? If 10% of the people raise their hands at the XP conference, that would be like the maximum usually. So how much have what we consider to be better processes been adopted throughout? So I'm not expecting any, that this is going to take a while, wherever it's going. We don't know yet where it's going. But regardless, whatever process we're using, there may not be an idea of TDD and refactoring as we go further in AI. It's not necessarily going to be, but I don't have much confidence in even the simple things that AI creates in code for me right now. I'm watching as it does things and the things it forgets, and I can get a result, but it's extremely difficult to prove that. Anyways, even simple things where I can prove stuff, I found it lacking So I think that we've got to be careful about how much confidence we have in what it's doing till we have a way of verifying that well. And there may be people who are already doing that. But regardless, I think we need a process that allows us to iterate. What a lot of people are saying, well, we just need these better diagrams and better descriptions of what we want the software, and we're talking about software here, to be created. Well, yeah, we're not going to invent that up front. We're going to invent that as we go. And so I think the idea of iterating and steering is important. As far as this group is concerned, and maybe other things we're doing here, the ideas of DDD with the bounded context and what do the words mean within the bounded context, we're probably going to need to start thinking about that as we go, just to be clear there. I think one of the big issues isn't like, was it you, Garrick, who was saying, oh no, my toaster's on the loose and it's running in the street. Well, the toasters never really tried to convince us or act in a convincing manner towards us. Whereas AI and most of the tools do, it's a tool that gives a plausible answer to what we're asking of it, but it wants us, as these things move forward, it might get better and better at fooling us into thinking we're getting what we want. And maybe it will pollute or, I don't know what's the right word, us into thinking, our thinking into what is it we really want. And so there's a lot I think we're going to need to be concerned with. It's not necessarily going to be like HAL of, what was it?
2001 Space Odyssey.
2001.
Yeah. Open the pod bay doors.
I watched that, many, many years ago, as well as other movies that have this kind of a theme. We don't know where this is going to head. We can't predict. If we could predict why, then we'd be unique humans within all of existence. Let's see. I think that's covered the main things. I want to add one more thing. When I was a child, we lived kind of in the countryside. It's an area that's now overgrown with houses, but it was farms at that time. And, as a child, there was no internet and we barely had television. And so how did we learn things and what did we do? We played in the dirt with sticks and made forts, with digging holes through little hills of dirt we made. But we also played with tinker toys. And what was that mechanical set, the little erector sets they used to call them, little metal parts with gears and you can make stuff. I remember my dad had a model of a steam engine that he had built. And my dad had taught one of my brothers how to make a radio with an oatmeal box and a coil of copper wire and all these things. That was our learning. What are kids doing nowadays? So between then and now was the next step up from Legos. From the Tinker Toys and whatnot was Legos. And at the same time, there were others like Kinects and other things that came along. All kinds of these little modular building things that you could pretty much be free form with if you want. The kids that were more inclined were doing ham radio stuff. Others were doing car repair stuff. What do kids today do? So I think that's good to bring in young people, like anybody under 65. That's a good thing. Let's bring in those youngsters. And then, but also, from different points of view, completely different points of view. So that's interesting to me that, because now when I was a kid, I now know I did my first programming in 1968 or 69, and it was pair programming with I knew how to use the machine that could do the calculations, and somebody else knew the calculations they wanted to have done. And this is in high school, and I would sit with them, a kid from the chemistry class. When I first started programming, understanding where this could go would have been impossible for me. But the older people at that time were mostly doers. They were not software makers. They were scientists or whatever that were creating the software to do the calculations and to do the formulas and to do the work they needed to have done. So I almost feel like we're getting back there now. For a long time, I think software was its own thing where if you wanted something done, you found somebody who was an expert in making software. And we may see things changing. I've experienced this week for myself. I've been very focused on using AI to create PowerShell scripts, Bash style scripts and stuff. And I'm automating processes that I've been doing manually that I've been wanting to automate, but it was just too much work because it's so infrequently done. Now I can spend an hour or 2 or 3 automating something that would take me an hour or 2 or 3 every week or every month. And now I never have to do those things again. So I think we're going to see people that need to get things done becoming quote unquote, programmers again. They'll use these tools just like people did in the 50s who were trying to use computers to do the calculations and stuff they were doing. But I don't really have a clue about any of this. These are just some observations and a little light thinking about this. I like where, we're going with this. I would like to make sure we're not going to go down the route of certifying people of anything. And some of the models that I've seen that I don't think served us well. And I don't know. I think this is a self-forming group in a lot of ways, and probably finding ways to allow it to continue being self-forming, self-directed, self-managing, to keep it, from turning into something that people abuse and misuse and monetize the thinking of others when they shouldn't be, maybe. Anyways, just these were like 10 different topics that came up, and I wrote little notes about it. I think we got to go back to Tinker Toys, though. That's probably what we need to do. Yeah.
Sorry, go back to where, Woody?
Oh, I was just making it kidding. We can't reverse time, is what I mean to say. When my grandson, he played Legos a lot, but mostly now, and he's 10 years old, it's programming games and programming stuff. And, he just still does some Legos and stuff, but you don't revert back, the puzzles with the large pieces, we don't do those anymore.
Mhm.
Now the puzzles have very small pieces.
Yeah.
We don't. I hope you can see what I'm saying.
Yeah. So that's why I always keep bringing back this kind of mantra that this guild should be vendor neutral, and so cannot be monetized, cannot be turned into some certification mill like SAFE and some of those atrocious things. And I'm 100% with you, Woody. It should be self-organizing and self-policing, and just resist the urge to become some, vendor. We're not vending anything. But you brought in just quickly, just an interesting point. When I first got exposed to programming, which was in the mid '80s, I had no idea there's software. All we learned Fortran and Lisp, and I was just writing everything on my own. And at home, I had Commodore 64, right, and writing assembly. And I had no idea that you could buy a program or whatever the product. And so, because I was doing scientific research and I had copious data, I was just writing my own programs to do statistical analysis, time series analysis. Everything was hand cranked. So with AI, I feel, and again, just quickly, I feel that same as my parents could not wrap their head around this idea of a network, I feel I cannot wrap my head around this idea of a planetary brain. I just can't. I try, and I talked to ChatGPT about that, and he played coy. He's like, I don't know anything about it, but I suspect there's something to it that, my experience of intelligence is localized. It's here. The AI is dimensionless. There's no location. And I call it planetary brain. How does that feel? What does that mean? I have no idea. Maybe kids will find out soon. Frank, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Couple of things to share. So I've been sat in front of Claude Code today, learning that. Here's an experience I had outside of coding. I thought was quite interesting. So we bought a car about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was fairly new, secondhand. So we bought it from a dealer, and there was a fault in the steering wheel that came about 2 years later. And so there's a 3-year warranty on it from the manufacturer. So we couldn't take it to the manufacturer So we had to take it to the authorized VW dealer, and they replaced the steering wheel, all £1,000 of it, because there's an electronic sensor in there related to cruise control, and it was a known fault. And so 3 years later, it's just happened again, and we're out of warranty. So we took it down to the Volkswagen dealer. This was a couple of weeks ago. We had to pay them £120 to have the steering wheel diagnosed, and they found it's the same fault. So they were shipping replacement steering wheels, £1,000 a pop. Yeah, and the first batch had the same fault. So they actually won't now repair it under warranty because the warranty has expired, and the warranty was under the manufacturer. So they said, look, nothing to do with us. And the manufacturer, Volkswagen, aren't going to pay for it. So long story short, I spent a long time with Claude saying, you know, I want to bring a claim about it, you know, in court somehow. And so we put together this really kind of very detailed money claim against the garage. We said, listen, they dealt with the car. You know, they've replaced, they got the replacement part, blah, blah, blah. So we served this letter, and and I triple checked it, and I read this, you know, consumer rights. And they came back and they basically said, you're going to look like a complete fool in court because you didn't exchange any money. So it wasn't a contract. We replaced it free of charge. If you had put any contribution towards it, then your consumer rights would be intact. So you can't sue us. And the manufacturer, you can't sue. So I go back and I put it into Claude. I said, holy shit, is this true? And it was like, oh, I'm really sorry. And it's like, you've got no fucking idea what you've just done. But then we talk about it. We say, well, actually, I said, what in UK law does it say about, you know, it's that offer and the acceptance and then a consideration, that's the money element. What does it say about consideration? Oh, it's not just monetary. You took your business to that authorized dealer, not to another one. So you're actually, you know, you're giving them the opportunity to make money off the manufacturer, fit the part, you're giving them the service. And also you sign their terms and conditions which said, if there's anything found that isn't covered under warranty, I will be financially liable. Said, well, that's a firm commitment that establishes a contract. Oh, okay. If we can make this case, then we get consumer rights? Potentially, yes. So then you can claim for the part under the consumer rights, and then you can put that into the small claims. Oh, I'm not really sure about that. Okay. So then it says, I say, have a look around. Like I'm really, yeah, there's a landmark case from 1968. I'll get to the point in a minute. It was done in the Court of Appeal, which is the court above the High Claims Court, so it's binding. And it was about an insurance company paying for motor repairs. And the car went to the garage, and the garage didn't do a good job. And the court deemed there was an implied contract between the owner of the car and the garage, irrespective of the insurer. And that looks very similar to your setup. Oh, great. Okay. ChatGPT, can we have two different legal basis of the claims and let the judge decide? Oh, yeah, you can. That's that's option one, alternate option B. That's called multiple pleadings. I'm saying all of this because I don't have a qualification in law just yet, but I think it's completely and utterly fascinating. It's almost like it's taken for me, it's like a new way of learning, and I can't 100% guarantee because I'm not quite experienced enough. But it's almost like if I disbelieve everything it says and I cross-reference it from multiple angles, then I pretty much can increase the certainty quite remarkably. And then in that instance, I put it out into the world and I get the feedback. The irony is the service manager was so unimpressed that he just did a Google search. It said basically who's responsible for the blah, 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 and took a screenshot of the Google search. And it wasn't until ChatGPT said, well, we can take that as their official response, and the court will look very dimly upon it because they didn't address the legal basis, the £120. So I think there's a real utility here in a way that perhaps we've not had the ability to learn stuff that is beyond our expertise. And it's kind of why I hope they don't settle, because I kind of do want to I do want to lodge it in court and then see what the judge makes of all of this as a layperson. But I don't know. I think there's something profoundly interesting interacting with something that is helping you learn in perhaps a way that we haven't had access to before. that's what I wanted to share.
Oh, okay, interesting. That reminds me, a friend of mine, she opened a software development shop and ordered a whole bunch of Dell laptops. And then something went sideways, I forget what. So he wanted to get reimbursed by Dell. And it was back and forth. And of course, Dell was like, no, no way, they're not considering that, etc. And then eventually he turned this over to, I think, ChatGPT. And then ChatGPT started corresponding, and eventually Dell caved in and they paid. So he said, no idea what happened. And they're like, I have no idea how. It digs around and finds all these edge cases, but it allegedly helped him get his money back. So
Actually, Alex, on that point, one more thing I forgot to mention. So in the middle of this whole exchange, and when I said the holy shit moment, which is, God, look what you've just done, and I've lost faith in you. It said, oh, you should phone a solicitor. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to, though, because I know how much they cost. I've had enough. Well, why don't you phone the Citizens Advice Bureau? That's free. So I did, and I had a good consultation with them. And they came back and they said, we don't believe you've got a case. And so it was only when I put it into AI and they said, we don't believe we've got a case. I said, I don't believe that, because what's the opposite? The opposite is, can you think of an example whereby someone's taken someone's taken custody of your car and is doing something on it, and there is no implied legal obligations whatsoever? Oh, good point. No, that's very strange. It's certainly. So then I said, look for how various different contracts or liabilities come in. So then it's like, okay, let's look at the property, professional negligence, property damage, personal injury. It went through the whole range, and then it came up with these three things, which I think are arguable enough. So yeah, I can't think of how you would have done that, I guess, in person amongst experts, or I can't think of how you would have kind of learned or researched perhaps in the same way previously. Anyway.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you. Garrick?
Yeah, just a couple of quick points. One of them, I'm actually going to go following off of what Frank had mentioned, and kind of an accent on this. One of the more interesting random YouTube videos I came across was someone making the point that a consequence of all of this rapid, instantaneous synthesis of very deep knowledge that's gleaned and packaged into these language models is that, and this is the hypothesis, I agree with it, I think it's intriguing, but basically the notion is that if knowledge is cheap, knowing the right questions becomes your power. Knowing how to phrase. And I think Franklin actually demonstrates going through a very important process, because depending on people's critical thinking skills, some of their own base level of knowledge, it becomes a much different experience in terms of using these as tools to accomplish a goal. So that's kind of point one, the notion that figuring out how to ask the right questions becomes really critical capability. That's number one. Number two, and this is something that I've done personally, I've kind of gone in slowly playing around with agentic stuff, but one of the things I've done with Claude and my Claude subscription is that I need to create more files for actors and things like that, but my basic model, I've gone off and I've said, you are the computer in Star Trek The Next Generation. You are not anthropomorphized. Right, that I'm saying you. I'm paraphrasing here, of course, but I write it out as saying, interact with me as though you are this entity. Do not say I. Do not do this. Respond with things that are like acknowledged processing. I will make it a point not to anthropomorphize you because you are not a human. And I believe that there is an important distinction between human and empathetic entities, even animals, and inhuman processes. And that is a fundamental point of work that I want predominant. And so to me, the notion of how I've been working with Claude, and again, I've mostly been using it. I've done some analysis and thinking about like XP and, you know, what does it look like? One of the big things I'm with in terms of others mentioned is it feels like TDD is the wrong tool because it's design, right? I like to joke that Penpack made a mistake. It should have been called DDT. He could have been marketed as kills bugs dead. You know, it'd have been everywhere by now. But an alternate world. But still, the notion that if it can't do that and it wants to move in chunks, maybe we move to small objects, which we do anyways, small functionality, test first, and then mutation test and architecture, that sort of stuff. So a little bit of a dog's breakfast there, forgive me, but
No, that's good. So I like what you brought one interesting eye catch or ear catching term. If knowledge is cheap. So, and that's to my point. If knowledge is cheap, that gives us free range to play with the representation of that knowledge, right? And I think that there's an opening that I'm very interested in exploring, that I see talented people like Thomas here and Laurie, who are almost poetic people. And I admire that to no end. I think you can be an engineer and be a poet at the same time. And their heart is there. I love it. And they are poking around and not even being aware, but they're combining representation, because not for them, knowledge is cheap. They can grab it like you wouldn't believe. These are the things that really impress me and just blow my mind. Over to you, Kelly.
Hey there. I was just going to respond that so I have learned how to, not necessarily architecture, because I understood that. I've worked in you know, early answer tree stuffs back in the year 2000s, and I've worked in IT support on the healthcare side, seeing where systems break, how to you know, connect everything, and also the human interaction part of it, and having to walk teams through how to do a lot of things and understanding where those limitations come up. But I can say that, okay, so Claude Code, Woody, you were talking about how you've been using it. If you use Claude CLI by itself and it has no huge massive database of code base to read from with lots of markdown files, lots of workflows, lots of history, lots of all that, then it really is it's terrible, right? But if you build piece by piece, I'm saying this from my own experience. I started working with Claude Code when it first came out, and then I stayed with it and watched as it continued to have issues, but then I would learn how to solve those issues, and it taught me while I was solving those, and I watched it build, and then I would ask questions about why it was doing things, and it would steer me down roads that were wrong, but I knew they were wrong. And then I would reel it back in, and then I would create this structure. I use Windsurf, and so I've created this structure that helps me keep it on track. I'm still looking over its shoulder though, because I have to understand every piece of that code base. But could I sit down and write code today without it? No, I sure couldn't, because when I worked in those fields where I was working on the answer tree side, or those sides, not necessarily coding, but architecturing, I understood what coding took because I sat next to those people and I saw when there was a simple need to change something, how it broke the whole entire system. And so I knew I didn't have that ability to do that. I didn't want to do that. It wasn't attractive to me. So what Claude Code now allows me to do is have my team of engineers who are going to run through things, and I'm going to beat them up, right? And then I'm going to change things, and they're going to have to just jump in line. But Claude is all I can say is when 4.6 came out, its ability to review its own code, that was the shift, because prior to 4.6, it would write code with a lot of errors. It could go back and kind of find some of them on its own. But when 4.6 came out, I don't know, something just really shifted, and now we're seeing, Claude is writing its own coding. And there's a separation too, I think, between when Claude is writing code and when Claude is used as an LLM. for people, the data set that's the synthetic from it learning on code is, I think, a separate than when we're using it for legal things or stuff like that. I think that has to be based in real human data set. But the synthetic, the coding stuff, I don't know. I just, the proof is in the pudding. But like Thomas has helped me a lot with some some efficiency things and some minimal token usage and stuff like that he's a master at. But I will say, like, I feel like, I'm the new wave of people too, that we have to understand it, right? And at the same time, like, man, it can teach you while you're building, and that's what's crazy about it. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, I'm with you. I may make some enemies now here, but I'm going to push back on Garrick's assessment of TDD. What I'm learning, because I'm big on TDD, I spent many years doing it, and I was with you, of course. But now that I'm using it with the help of AI, I'm learning, and this is my personal journey, I'm learning that TDD is not about design. TDD is about uncovering the domain, which is fantastic. And I call it test-driven navigation, not test-driven development, where I throw challenging tests at it, and I ask it to make it pass. And as it's toiling and working, I can see it's learning the domain, and it's also teaching me the domain. And, I am one of those people, and I learned that from Woody, that I think we cannot know upfront where the work is going to take us. And so I prefer to make my workflow extremely interruptible. And I learned that from Kent Beck, because I adopted his TCR approach, where at any second you should be completely ready to just toss everything you've done and try again. So this reversibility and regenerativity is what I'm learning from AI. Before AI, oh my God, it was so expensive. My heart aches that all my precious work now has to be chucked away. But now I'm relaxed, as Kelly says. At this point, I'm not even, and again, maybe I'm foolish, and maybe I will live to eat my own words. But at this point, I'm not even bothering going back and checking at the code. So long as all my tests are passing, all the surviving mutants are killed, I'm pretty, and but I do a lot of architecture tests, and I'm developing this AI harness where I catch it if it tries to go back. Sometimes it tries to sneak back and change the spec to make its life easier. I'm like, oh, slap on the wrist, not illegal, not allowed. So I'm building this police dog that's going to be sniffing around and saying, what the hell are you doing changing the assertion in the test? Like, what's that all about? But I think once we solve that problem, I can confidently focus my attention to unearthing the domain. So it's almost like archaeological expedition. Somebody says, look, over there is a fabulous ancient city with like treasure trove, and let's go to the expedition and just dig and get rich. That's a hypothesis. I mean, so I need to go there with my equipment, as Ken Beck says, with my exoskeleton, and I'm digging and I'm learning, is it really worth the further effort? So that's XP, right? You're just getting instant feedback, and you're deciding, am I going to continue, or am I going to just abandon, or am I going to pivot? So, AI is my big buddy in that endeavor. It really gives me this kind of muscle power. That's why I appreciate it. It's helping me unearth and uncover the murky corners of the domain that otherwise I don't think I would have learned until we go and have a fiasco in production, and the users are screaming and saying, you totally forgot about this edge case. So I think it's super powered. I may be ideal. I'm prone to being overly optimistic, but that's where I'm at this point. So I don't know. We have 3 hands, but I think Frank, you already spoke. Kelly, you spoke. So Matt, is it okay if Matt now? I don't know why your hands are still up.
Yeah, Kelly had just finished, and I had a follow up on what she said. But Kelly, did you have anything else you wanted to add? She may be away from her machine.
Oh, you're mute.
I'm
Kelly.
here. I'm good. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Kelly. Well, and I wanted to talk about software factories a little bit in the vein of what Woody and Kelly have been talking about in terms of Claude Code. And again, this is just my perspective from what the work I'm doing at Fourth Wave and from my own work that I've been doing for the last couple of years. And I think it really speaks to the perspective of inevitability that I know is a big part of my direction that I'm going with this tech and my own career motivations. And the reason is because I am seeing these software factories that are being created, and I'm seeing what they can produce. And where we are right now is people are building their own factories of their own pipelines of specs go in the top and production ready deliverables come out the bottom. I've built one of these systems called Elves. It started as a system called AutoStack, and I've talked about it very frequently on LinkedIn for the last year and a half. And so now it's Elves, and there's a lot to talk about there. But basically, it is a Claude Code skill, and I just recently built a co-work skill that acts as like a project manager. But my point is, we are absolutely at the point where software is going to be factories. And Alex, to your point, we're not reviewing this code anymore. We write thorough tests. There's a TDD mode in Elves, and it runs through a gauntlet of checks. We have a refined capability for the PRDs. We use Codex to do deep technical dives into the code to create tasks. Automatic PR reviews that are automatically fixed. Deterministic quality checks on line counts and linters. And I mean, it goes through everything. And I've spent almost 2 years building this system, and now it's kind of in control of Fourth Wave. I'm working on it with my colleagues over at Fourth Wave, and they're using it to build all kinds of stuff. And that is the reason why I believe that we are absolutely past the point of this going back to whatever we understood it to be before. Because if me, some dude from the other side of the tracks that doesn't have a CS degree, that's been doing this for 20 years, but pretty much self-taught, if I can figure out how to build something like that in my spare time, what are these people that can run circles around me that work at some of the top teams in the whole world? What are they building? What does Amazon have in the wings that it hasn't released yet? We are past the Rubicon, I think, and that's not speculation. It is what we are observing that is the standard right now, that is happening right now, and that I think we're going to see widely propagated in the summer and the fall. And I think there's wisdom in making sure we don't drink too much of our own Kool-Aid, for sure. I know I can be that way, and that's the great thing about this guild is we can kind of keep a check on each other and go, hey, hang on a second, let's double check what you're talking about here. Let's verify what you're saying. Accountability between each other is really important. But I just wanted to software factories, and in my opinion, we're way past people working with Claude Code. Now it's pipelines and I think figuring out how we prepare millions of knowledge workers that have no awareness of those types of things, much less what's coming down the pike. So there's a lot there, but I just wanted to share. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. So basically, going back to what you said, I lost my train of thought, but you said something really interesting. But anyway, over to you, Laurie. Sorry, brain fart. Laurie.
No worries. I think I'm sure you'll get back to it soon. Always on the tip of your tongue. Apparently random fact, but with that they designed this therapy technique in psychosis for hypnosis, where the old thing about the pendulum that you have to track with your eyes, but I forget what the name is, but it's a type of hypnosis that they can do with your if you move your eyes like that in a certain flow, you will get yourself hypnotized later. And that apparently is super good. You can even do the eye thing to get to those tip of your tongue, retrieving those memories faster This is not just, this is an actual fact. Oh yeah, I mean, Kelly knows about EMDR and all of that. Anyway, so what I wanted to say is, like Matt said, there are people that are not as experienced as us, that are figuring things out that are incredible. I mean, have you heard about the most recent trending repository on GitHub? Let me just get that name again. Miro, developed by a genius there in China. He's a final year student, and he made Miro. Let me just get the name. If you give me 1 second, I have the link right here. Okay, let me just go to the trending repositories. I'll find it there. But anyway, what it's about is he has it's a mathematically based, scientifically based approach to prediction using LLMs and a pipeline of LLMs, a factory, and this has now exploded all over in a few days. I think he created this. He said he vibe coded the project. Miro Fish. It's a simple intelligence engine. Now, I've seen a lot of these things out there. There are people now doing research with agents, talking to each other, except that that will most likely lead to garbage breakthroughs because of all of the problems in self-scoring and good art violations, etc. But this guy got to something real. He sent the evening he finished. He sent his preliminary results to one of his a contact of one of his professors, and he received a 10 million bonus for his company that he needs to start. Or he wants to start with this. He built it in 10 days, got 10 million just for that because of the amazing results he has shown. I'll drop the link in Discord for all of you because I am planning on investigating this in detail as soon as I can. It's formally based, and just on Matt's point, there's another product out there that is very popular, a second brain that was developed by a product manager. Vibe coding it, he understood something, then he focused on it. I've seen it at work. It's not perfect, but it helps thousands of people. Nothing is perfect. That perfect is the enemy of good. But in any case, we also have factories of our own design here in the guild, and it might be a bit for someone who claims to be very epistemically humble, and we have powerful systems within our group, and I think that a lot of people they have not seen the empirical output of the quality of this work. We still keeping things a bit, by invite only. I will extend my invite later again, of course. And Matt showed us in private the other day a bit about his factory, which looks incredible. And I mean, Thomas has a factory of factories, where, if you first grasp the recursion, then the recursive self-improvement is real, right? And that is what Dario and all of them realized early this year at Davos. People might not think it, but the path to AGI we are in that journey now, and we should embrace it, but we should be responsible, and we should perhaps put out more position papers for people to read up on. Because if you don't take a critical scientific lens to all of these things, people will hype and overhype, and then that is detrimental to science, as we all know.
Thanks, Laurie. If you don't mind, I just remember what I wanted to comment on Matt's. So 2 things. One is, Matt, I think I didn't already mention that. I keep harping on about it. When I work at a large bank and collaborated with the chief operation officer, they told me that they're extremely frustrated with software. The software to them is debilitating. It's really a straitjacket and handcuffed, it just shoving down their throat, and there's one and one way to do their business. And he says, therefore, we are frustrated because we're losing a ton of opportunities over there because software is not allowing us. And so these people now can benefit from being directed to and taught how you can try your hand with, but in a safe fashion, right? And the one we prescribe and recommend, so that you can spread your wings. And because he says, I go on my bended knees to IT department, beg them for change. They always take the number, and slow as molasses. And IT doesn't have good reputation in corporations anyway. So that's where I see another potential thing, and our role to guide and advise and steer. And another one where I see, where you talked about this, Matt, where I see a potential moat that can be crossed is with, like you mentioned, your own Mac studio, whatever you want to have. The final frontier is the firewall and the paywall. The large models have been trained on publicly. Now, there's a lot of gems hidden behind the firewall. And whoever can, like if I'm running a business and I'm secretive about my data and all that, of course, LLMs have no idea about these patterns. But if I can bring them inside, behind the firewall, and train them on my unique secret sauce, that's another level of power that right now they don't have. They're just completely oblivious to what's happening behind the firewall. And believe me, there's a lot of interesting things happening behind the firewall and behind the paywall. And that's where I see big potential.
Yeah, and just very quickly, then we can move to Garrett. I want to make it real clear that how much absolute benefit this is going to be for people that aren't traditional engineers, and how excited I am to see that. Everyone should have the joy of being able to build.
Absolutely.
And whether it's Elves or any other software factory or Claude Code or anything, meeting people where they are and showing them this is how you can build with this technology. This is how AI can be your exoskeleton. From the stuff that Kelly was doing, from the stuff that other people are doing, it's about figuring out how to leverage this tech and give you the results that you need. And so, a lot of my stuff is coming from, the work, all this like edge stuff. But my larger goal and my larger hope for this is not that we have this group of, hardcore devs that are doing all this stuff. It's that we can help propagate this to anyone that is interested in building and knowing how to build. And so I'm super excited about that. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest benefits of this.
Yes, and that brings us to my next topic for this meeting, which I will try and address once we have these three gentlemen have their round. Garrett?
Thank you. I'll try and keep it brief. One thing that I wanted to say, just from my own current immersion in what I'm doing in terms of work, I'm doing technical coaching at a large financial firm, since, consulting, you can't name the client. But I'm also doing it in time zone shifted, working GMT with developers in India and Europe. I will say firsthand, especially the things that Matt's been describing and some of the stuff that Alex, you were talking about in terms of development approaches, the software teams inside these organizations are nowhere near ready for this type of work. Even coming up with a model to consider how to adopt to it with the systems they already have in place, they are so far behind. It's almost shocking. And if you take the notion that if that's the case for this company that's not a tech company, what does it mean for a hell of a lot of the others that are out there? So that's one thing. And then number two, real quick, Matt, your mention of factories gave me a warm thought of going back and listening to the audiobooks version, a great series if you like sci-fi, the Bobaverse series by Dennis E. Taylor. Hell of a lot of fun. Part of the way through, it's sci-fi in the future and all this, and he's a human that gets saved and is working in a world with AIs, and they have factories. So props there, especially if you're familiar with it. So that's all.
Thanks, Garrett. Frank?
Oh yes. One other thing I wanted to share actually. I've got this like fundamental coaching agent that I've developed now for more than a year. So and the base kind of context starts off with stuff from my counseling training, psychological theory, psychological assessment to kind of set all the context. And over time I've used it as a journaling technique. So, you know, I've taught it different techniques. When I write this, I'm using this kind of journaling approach and I use it every day. What I found more and more though is particularly with the large context models and the length of time, this one agent, the particular conversation thread is the one I go to for all the instead of all the other agents. So if I'm looking for work and I'm trying to fit it against CV, if I'm doing some analysis, if I'm thinking out aloud, if I've got a problem in the family, if I need to do some practical stuff, I no longer go to the other agents. I go to the one that I do the journaling in because it delivers some unbelievable insights because it can, and it's been taught. It's not like, oh yeah, tell me how you feel. It's not what it is. It's been specifically asked to look for long-running patterns across contexts, across domains, across situations, and to bring them into conscious awareness. And even totally unrelated BA work, I quite often will revert to that thread because it will bring insights I'm not aware of. So I guess what I'm suggesting is if you're that way inclined at all, I think the value comes from the long-running journaling insight the AI gets. So why not create a long-running chat somewhere? Put, you know, whether it's daily journaling or like, you know, think about it like an ADR record or something, you know, and maybe it's just like, you know, what's going on in your life, but, you know, build up a good 3 months worth of context and see if it's useful to yourselves in context outside of just the journaling practice. So yeah, I suggest it for anyone here who might have any interest in trying that out.
Nice. Yes.
Thanks, Frank. So for people who want to do that, and you're talking about some beefy, so can this be done on a free subscription model?
Oh, the only concern I was put about that, Alex, is well, I've read the terms and conditions of the various agents, and effectively, when you start paying, then they protect your data, they delete your data, they don't share the data, and they don't train the models off it. So I'm using it in a paid Claude subscription because I don't want my medical records to be shared beyond that. But I read it line for line, and I'm happy with the data handling of a paid subscription. So what I say is just read the terms and conditions for anybody wanting to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, and this is for the guild. For example, here in Canada, when you're a Canadian citizen, you get your social insurance number, which is like your ID. And you don't pay for it, right? So moving forward, can we envision a world where we have a full-blown AI service that is paid by our tax dollars, guaranteed by our government as part of your public service? I have access to free public libraries paid by my taxes. I don't have to pay a dime. I can get all kinds of useful material there. I think AI should become part of that service. This is just my utopian brain working, but we need to move to Woody now. Hey, Woody.
Okay. I just wanted to bring up the point that I think I kind of made this earlier, that people doing the things needed to figure out how to program the things. And again, we're talking about software, but this goes for anything. There is a short story I can share that's related, but you're all familiar, hopefully, with the idea of shadow IT, where like a department needed some software, they couldn't get it approved through the normal channels, and somebody within the group kind of knew how to use Excel well enough, and they wrote their software in Excel in some, functioning but problematic way. It was like code that was extremely full of problems. Sometimes it had code. The same thing originally with people writing websites. They learned how to write scripts, and then they got stuff that, every little change that needed to be made later on was extremely difficult because they didn't understand that there are mechanisms in place, or we can have mechanisms in place that make working on our software easy to do. So I don't think that this is any different. The model isn't any different using AI than it would have been with these earlier models. So if we go to, somebody was, let's say in a financial organization, and they were doing some kind of stuff in Excel spreadsheets, and now they would maybe not use the spreadsheets, or they would have AI create what they need and put it in the spreadsheets, whatever it is. So I just wanted to point that out. I don't think this is changing that model. Essentially, it may help people realize, oh yeah, maybe I could do this. So that's just something I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, thanks, Woody. I think I relayed this project I was working on at the local energy company, where the entire core of the business, multi-billion-dollar business, was running on a whole bunch of linked spreadsheets that one dude built, and it's in his head, and he has an amazing corner office with a single malt whiskey. He can, he's just like, they lavish all the attention on him because he's the heart of the business. It just grew naive. It grew little by little, like boiling a frog, this and that, and here, and before, and bam, we're a multi-billion-dollar business. We're running on these spreadsheets,
So I do have an example of this where in a large medical items firm that I worked for a couple of years, somebody who understood the need, and that they thought that what they could do in Visio. So Visio is very similar, Microsoft product, and you program it with VBA, and they started creating that. And over a 15-year period, in a business that was doing $1 billion a year or more, about 1/4 of their business came from the tool that this person had written in Visio. They were able to do things that their competitors couldn't do. But when I got hired on, it had gotten, after 15 years, to the point where they could no longer make any changes to it without breaking something, and they had no way to know what they broke. So just to get, the point I'm making is, sure, we can create all kinds of stuff. Is it making things better? This is questionable. We're not ready to actually decide that yet. But I do want to relate one really quick, tiny story, but we're out of time. So next time I'll relate it. But it has to do with the person who was wanting to turn their home into a solar, using solar power. And as they researched it all through AI tools, ChatGPT and others, they were able to do everything themselves way better than it could have been, based mostly on stuff that somebody had given them as they were replacing in their own home. And it's a really fascinating story. But this is totally outside of AI. I mean, out of software development, just totally using AI to figure out the steps. This is great stuff. But maybe we got off topic here today. So anyways, I do need to go. It is just now turning end of the meeting time for me.
Sure.
And thank you so much. I know you have other things you want to cover, but I've got to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wonder, I love meeting with everybody here, and I wish I had an hour with each of you alone, just so I could pick your brains. But thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, Woody. So I just want to summarize. So far, we kind of talked about the criteria for who deserves or who earns to be sitting at the guild table, becoming a member, whether in terms of stewardship, or there's some roles described in our charter. Sorry. The other thing I wanted to quickly, and maybe we're out of time, we can continue next week. Another topic I want to talk about, which is something Matt really passionately advocates for, which is we need to offer or guidance or something. I think this technology, AI, is the real, offers a real potential for regular people to gain some muscle to fight back the onslaught of nefarious overlord agendas. And that, I think, should be part of our mandate, is to how do we use this technology to give power to the people, to say, individuals, to say, this is focused on you, this is loyal to you, this is not loyal to some faceless conglomerate who is just profit mongering and just looking at tricking you and hypnotizing you into doing this and that and giving this away, this information, or giving your money away. That is a tremendous potential, which I think has maybe the biggest impact. Because like you say, Garrick, yeah, these teams are kind of lost. I mean, why try and cry over spilled milk? It is what it is, you know. They will keep chugging along. Maybe some of them will go all the way to retirement. Some will just go into farming, solar power, doesn't matter. But for individual humans who are being targeted, we all are being targeted badly by horrible actors, day in, day out. And now using AI, you've heard of the incident where somebody received a phone call from his mother's phone on the caller ID, and his mother's voice panicking, "We urgently need $3,000 or something, emergency, blah, blah, blah." It was all fucking AI, right? And so now they're advocating families to come up with a secret password. So if you get your call
Safe
from
safe words for grandparents,
first thing,
not for the little kids.
Yes. Are you saying the Nigerian princes have discovered?
sorry, what was
The
that, Laurie?
Nigerian. Are you saying the Nigerian princes with their millions have discovered AI?
I mean,
That's scary.
I don't know. I mean, you have to be rotten to think of these things. We cannot think up, you know. But AI can maybe detect those, or you can have your own AI safeguard, guardian angel, who will step
Yeah.
in and say, "Well, stop, Laurie, stop right there. Don't fall for it. This is bullshit."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ethical, responsible people and engineers have already put some things in place which have been adopted. For example, malignant skills scanning. All of these repos online, the official ones and other offshoots, they do use these scanners to say whether one of the skills that you would like to employ in your harness is safe to use. Because people don't read the words in the skill.md file anymore. They just go and put it in and like, hey, now everything is gonna be like 200% better. Meanwhile, that thing could be logging all of your keystrokes and sending it to these scammers, all of your passwords, maybe recording your screen. I mean, hackers be hackers and scammers be scammers. They are legit. They are organizations making millions, employing these people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
I mean,
here's a, you know, almost like a fight back side of the guild. Here's how you fight back.
Yeah.
You need to fight back.
Yeah, we need
Either
to
by
be
preventing, either by preventing or mending in case there is a damage.
Thanks for the invite. I need to log off.
Sure.
That's excellent.
Thank you,
me
guys.
too. Fun.
Thanks so much for your
Alex,
time.
thanks.
I really appreciate it. And we'll talk soon.